Good morning. Today is May the 6th, 2023. I am here live for the Saturday service. It is live here from New York City. You might have noticed I'm wearing a white coat. Did you notice that?
Yes.
Here's me wearing my white lab coat. I have a white lab coat because on Friday, when was that? Thursday. On Thursday, I got awarded an honorary doctorate, and my mother, very excited, got me a stethoscope and a white lab coat. And she is telling everyone that she finally has a child who's a doctor.
Right.
I will admit, because I'm me, I wore this out in New York City. And you know what? What's great about New York City? Nobody cares. Just walk through. And then, so at this reunion, 25 years after being ordained, I got ordained as a rabbi 25 years ago. And I got to do a lot of catching up with classmates a lot of whom I haven't seen in 25 or more years. And that was amazing. And then to add to that, last night was my 35th high school reunion.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
And it was quite a wonderful weekend. And I spent a lot of time like just looking at people's faces, trying to figure out, oh my God, like some 55-year-old ate Jeremy. Like it was still Jeremy on the inside, but... And I explained it to Jane. I said, this has been like the greatest Disney park ride adventure I've been on, of just being flooded with memories and trying to place people. And I found something at the reunions that I don't really care much for, which is most reunion talk, because there are decades to fill in. Most of the talk is quite, where do you live? What do you do for work? Tell me about your immediate circle around you. And everything is very cocktail conversation, very, very surface. And I thought about what we do here and what I enjoy doing, which is to have conversations that are of meaning and conversations that move us. So that being said, I wanted to start with a poem today. Oh, wait, first, I'm going to show everybody who's on Zoom and Facebook. Look, I only can get you guys in a small window today, so wave to everybody if you would. There. Oh, nutso, please hold. There we go. I'm going to put you guys back up there. Thank you very much. I'm going to try not to switch cameras too often to that view. I know it gives some people a headache. So I wanted to start with a poem. And I appreciate your patience as I'm finding it. Oh, come on, Brian. Here it is. Here's the poem I want to share with you guys. It's by someone named Wayne Lickerman. It says this: as you walk the spiritual path, it widens, not narrows, until one day it broadens to a point where there is no path left at all. As you walk the spiritual path, it widens, not narrows, until one day it broadens to a point where there is no path left at all.
Yeah.
I like that. I'll hear some other reactions from people. Sure.
Yeah.
As you walk the spiritual path, it widens, not narrows, until one day it broadens to a point where there is no path left at all.
So it's all a spiritual path.
I don't know if that was a question or a statement.
It was a statement.
It was a statement. It's all a spiritual path. When does... Go ahead, Betsy.
As you to make choices, there are more choices available.
As you continue on, it should get wider and more open, not more closed and more narrow. Can we get an amen? Amen. If this is your first time at the Saturday service here, welcome, glad you're here. There are people who are co-hosts if you see their name has co-host, feel free to send a private message to them if you have any questions. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure you can figure out how this works based on just hanging back a second and seeing. Welcome, everyone. I want to start with one quick announcement. It's our friend Bob's 83rd birthday today.
Oh,
Happy birthday.
So as it is your
Thank you.
as it is your birthday, Bob, I will give you the choice. Would you like the horrible Zoom birthday song where everyone sings at different times, or would you like us to forgo the birthday song?
We can forego the birthday song.
Okay, I'm slightly.
On the other hand, since there was a number of people
No.
who were disappointed with that, let's have the birthday.
Wait. Time out. Nope. I'm not going to let that one run. Not that I'm not on the side of being disappointed, but it was Bob's initial wish to not have the birthday song, and it seems a little codependent that he was wanting to have it for those who objected. I'm getting a little confused then as what to do, because then Bob technically has changed his mind, which he's allowed to do.
No, it was not necessary, but it is enjoyable.
All right, folks, let's sing happy birthday to him. Birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Bob. Happy birthday to you.
Now, in the tradition of my family, I thank you, I do. I thank you, I do. I thank you, everybody. I thank you, I do.
That's wonderful. I would like to offer a gift to Bob, and I'd like to offer that gift from you. If you've been here for a while, you know Bob, and I'd love to hear from 2 or 3 people one thing that you have learned from Bob. What's something that Bob has either expressly taught, there's a line or a phrase that he has said, or what is something that you learned from Bob because of his character? There's something that you learned from him, just the way he is. I know you don't have to wrap the gift. It doesn't have to be perfect, but Maria, would you mind starting us out?
You're never too old to be funny and to get into trouble.
Right? It's a wonderful thing that Bob has taught this group, so thank you. Do we have another one coming? Yeah, go ahead, Gord.
Bob, more than just about anybody I know, really walks the walk with that, hey, mistakes are okay because that means I'm learning and growing.
yeah.
Amen. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Anyone want to add another one in, or we're going to take those 2, wrap them up, and let's continue on. Bob, I'm really glad.
I can add one. Bob's a little bit of a smart aleck.
Yes. And I guess I could say in that one, Bob, you have taught me some patience.
I'm good at that too.
Good.
That's the doctor talking.
Yeah. So today is the only day that I'm going with the doctor title, I think, from now on. We're just going to scrap that. I have this.
Where your patience comes from.
Thank you, Rob. I have a general question today. I have this question. I'm going to ask you to think about it for a moment, and then we'll see where we go with it. It says this: are we to be held responsible for having more negative thoughts than we'd like? Are we to be held responsible for having more negative thoughts than we'd like? Sit with that for a second.
By whom?
By our,
Yourself.
okay, so maybe, yeah, Aaron, is that a hand up?
Maybe.
Maybe. Okay.
Maybe.
Would
Sometimes,
you,
but not all the time.
that sometimes we should be held responsible for having more negative thoughts than we'd like, and sometimes we shouldn't. All right. Someone, anyone have any?
I think we should.
Who are we being responsible to?
Yeah.
Ourselves.
Okay, so let's thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you, Rob. Are we to be held responsible? So let's say I'm having a day and I'm running negative because I'm human, and I'm having a day and I'm running negative and my thoughts are running negative. Am I to be, I'm going to say this not well, am I supposed to just forgive myself for having more negative thoughts that day than or do I say, come on, Brian, what's wrong with you? Get over it. It wasn't a big deal. You're fine.
Breathe. I mean, use your what techniques generally help? I try to breathe. Try to challenge the thoughts, and if you still have them,
Yeah, keep going, Mike.
probably forgive yourself.
That's the part. That last part is really, really a tricky move. Of try as best we can. I like your answer, and then Michael, I'll be right with you. I like your answer, Aaron. Is that so? Am I to be held responsible for having more negative thoughts than I'd like? The answer then, from what you're saying, Aaron, is yes at first, but if I try to calm myself down, I try to give myself permission to have the negative thoughts. I try to give myself thoughts about cuddling with puppy dogs, and I still am having negative thoughts, that at that point I need to just say, okay, I've tried. I'm going to stop trying. Which, of course, might unlock the puzzle. Michael, go ahead.
Well, this is a core question, isn't it?
Well, I don't want to start with the easy questions.
Well, this is core. You can't get more core. In terms
Okay.
of autonomy.
Go ahead, say some more.
Well, in terms of autonomy, in terms of resolving inner conflict, which this religion outside the box, I think, is devoted to. I mean.
So am I to be held responsible for having more negative thoughts than I feel like I should or that I like?
How do you accommodate? How do we adjust to the word responsible? What does it mean?
Well,
let me finish.
Go ahead.
Do we take it as a command, as a big should with a capital S, or do we take it as an opportunity to own something that we can do something about?
That's the part that I can do something about. Yeah. And maybe I can't. I'm thinking that maybe this idea of not that I'm having negative thoughts and I'm not able to get myself out of my negative thoughts is like asking someone to pick themselves up from their bootstraps.
Well, that's the tone. Yeah, that's the double-edged issue of taking responsibility. We're so used to being punished.
Yeah. Let me also say, folks, there's a chat on YouTube and on Facebook. If you're watching, I can see those 12 seconds after you post them. And John, go ahead. John, are we to be held responsible for having more negative thoughts than we'd like?
You're muted, John.
You're muted.
It's all right.
Mute.
Who's got it?
I unmuted.
Now there you go. Go ahead.
The part about being held responsible, is that another way of saying, am I to be blamed?
Sure.
Okay.
No.
Earlier, like a couple of weeks ago, and I think last week, you talked about taking the stance of stopping and saying, isn't that interesting?
Correct.
Yeah, I like that.
And it seems to me that that's an appropriate response when you're getting a really negative day, is to find that
Right.
moment, take a pause, and just say, isn't that interesting? And then if you want to analyze the hell out of it, go ahead.
Great.
Or if you just want to say, okay, then maybe we can go from there.
This is so. If you weren't with us for the last week or so, we had this idea of hope, and how do we get towards more hope? How do we get towards more hope? And it's related issue of how do we spin our expectations to be positive? How do we expectations? How do we keep ourselves, and it's the same thing of being, if I find myself having more negative thoughts than usual, how do I undo it? And John, you're absolutely right, that one of the paths, one of the ways we can do it is curiosity. Is that then to say that I am responsible for my negative thoughts? And if I only were more curious about them, and if I only had a better stance internally about my own thoughts, I wouldn't be having the problems that I'm having.
Yes.
We get a little bit back to cyclical here. Yeah, Avon, go ahead.
No, sir.
When you asked if we were responsible for our negative thoughts, I first thought of a type of negative thought that I definitely don't feel responsible for.
Go ahead.
There's a lot of stuff for me where I'm like, oh, that's society. I can hear it. That's my grandmother, who I never had really anything in common and never really agreed with. But she's here and she's going, well, that girl looks really fat.
Uh-huh.
And it's not something I would ever do or say. And it's something I'm absolutely opposed to.
But it's in your head.
It's in here, yeah, and it's just stored, I guess. And I think that I had a friend who liked to say, every girl is pretty but me, which was, their way of joking about that sort of way that all of your beliefs can go in one direction, except for whatever self-critical little gremlin lives in here and insists on saying bullshit you don't agree with.
So are we responsible for those negative gremlins?
My answer is no. I think we fundamentally have to exist surrounded by others, and we're going to store some of their nonsense.
Right. So I'm delightfully on both sides of this. I can say, no, I'm not responsible for it. I can't be responsible for my negative thoughts because that's too much pressure in saying that I should be able to spin it all good all the time. But on the other hand, I can't say, I've got myself confused on the other side of it, but I know that made sense. Am I responsible for my own thoughts? Yeah, Carol.
I think it's clear that we
Thank you,
have
Avon.
many different components in our mind, and that it is up to us to strengthen that component which is most positive, and that when we find ourselves slipping into the judgmental, we stop and say, no, wait a minute, that's not who I want to be. That we have to strengthen, if you want to use left and right hemisphere, we have to strengthen the right hemisphere, which is more imaginative, more creative, and stop with the one that's always quantifying, judging, and make it slow down and get quiet so we can hear this other hemisphere. So we have a responsibility to try to build up within ourselves that aspect of ourselves that is most like what we aspire to.
I love it, but I have a problem. When I'm in a really hard place, I'm now going to add the ass kicking onto it. Is if I only were stronger in that hemisphere, I should not be having the hard time I'm currently having.
So when you get over the hard time, you begin to spend more time working on building that up. You don't have to do it at the moment. When you're hemorrhaging, bandage it. But then say, now why did I slice my finger? What did I do wrong? But you don't do that. When you have a cut, you bandage it. You take care of it. But then when you're well, you
Right.
say, now what could I have done to be more careful, and it won't happen as often.
That's perfect. That's perfect, and that gets me, Carol, exactly to this phrase that I'm of which I'm very fond, which I usually save for announcements, but I'll put it up right now. Is it's okay not to be okay. When you are hemorrhaging, when you are having a hard time, and hey, I might be talking directly to you, and you might have a front on that everything's fine, but you might be having a really hard time. And that's okay. And I think if I could get to the meat of this, is let's beat ourselves up for not having things perfect when the seas are calm. But when we're having a hard time, let's just, to the best of our ability, get out of the way and stop making it worse by telling ourselves we shouldn't be having a hard time.
Acceptance.
I have an analogy for this of when I've had a cold or a flu. And I'm sure, and I'll take a show of hands. How many of you have had this where you have a cold or a flu and you can't remember what it feels like to not have that cold or flu? Right? And you're like, I don't even remember. And then you come back to, and you're like, oh, this is what it feels like. I remember this now. And I think the same's when we're having a hard time. And sometimes we're having a really hard time and we can't even remember that we don't always feel like this. And there's something powerful about just knowing that. Okay. Hey, if you're having a hard time, I'm looking at all of you. If you're having a hard time, that's okay. And that was the thing that at the reunion I found to be so plastic at both reunions, was that it took effort to say to people, but how are you really right now?
If you haven't seen them for 25 years, you can't expect them to open up completely and show you all their wounds.
I would disagree with you, Carol, because I did some of that. I did some by doing it not at the table where there are 8 people, but talking quietly with one individual and sharing from my own self what's going on with me. It was much more enjoyable. I did it more at the 35 reunion after having practiced at the 25 reunion and realizing I didn't really enjoy that as much. But also the 35 reunion, there were a bunch of people who I saw who I knew from 1st to 12th grades. So there was a different closeness. Okay. I wanted to add in some other thoughts that I had over the past week about what leads us to hope. Because we want to be in this mindset of, oh, things are going to be okay. And curiosity leads us towards hope. And I did a little bit of homework on this. So curiosity can lead us to hope. And I found 3 other things that can lead us to hope. And by hope, I mean a more positive mindset than the bad one. Curiosity this can lead us there. Endurance. Someone give me some definition, especially if you haven't spoken yet today, some definition of what am I talking about when I'm saying endurance can lead us towards this thing. We're not talking about hope, remember. We're just talking about this feeling of not negativity. What am I talking about when I'm saying endurance can lead us there? Perseverance can lead us there. What is that?
Getting through it.
Just getting through it. of knowing I'm going to put one foot in front of the other, and I'm going to keep putting one foot in front of the other until I get there. Here's another one.
What's another one?
Gratitude.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right? Having a mindset of gratitude. Gratitude, Cicero said, gratitude is not only the greatest of all virtues, it is the father of them all. I apologize for the paternalistic language that Cicero used. I probably could have changed that. It is the parent of them all. Okay.
Acceptance.
That's the parent.
How about
Gratitude. If we can develop more gratitude, we can develop more endurance to get through and a little more curiosity. I think we have 3 really good steps. I have one more.
so do I?
Oh, what do you have?
Humor, a sense of humor.
You know what's funny? I didn't have that one. I'm going to add in humor. I think humor and curiosity are somewhat related. But humor, I put added humor. I was the other one I was going to add in, and then I'd love to take other ones, was perspective,
Yeah.
which is related back up to gratitude. What else do you know in your life? So we have humor, endurance, gratitude, perspective, curiosity. All can help lead us towards this goal.
Humor looks like amour to me. But anyway, I thought it was an interesting misread.
Oh, the way I wrote it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And for my Canadian friends, let me add a little "you" in there for the humor.
Thank you.
You are welcome.
Love belongs also.
Love. I don't know how I missed that one.
Amour. Love. I already said it.
Thank you, Aaron. Aaron is going to let's have some more love. Do you remember love, hope, curiosity, gratitude, endurance, humor, perspective, which are all great things. But let's remember what Carol said. These are great things to work on in the off season. When you're on the struggle bus, you're on the struggle bus. It's not, you just getting through. That's it.
How about acceptance?
Yes.
I like acceptance. I'm going to add that one in too. Oh, that's a whole topic I want us to talk about today. I'm just going to show you this because I sometimes get excited and I don't really know that anyone cares. But look, here is our outline today. Hope and paths towards it, and then acceptance. Congratulations. Let's talk about acceptance.
And one thing I wanted to
Yeah.
bring up, I want to say that acceptance is an active thing. It's not a passive thing. I think sometimes people read acceptance as passive. I mean, you're just giving out. You're accepting. But I think the acceptance is more active.
I think that's right. I think that's very right.
Right.
Acceptance takes some work. Where's my page? Okay, hold on. Before I run us into the acceptance, let me just take a look at the screen in front of me. It looks like I'm not looking at you, but actually now I'm looking at you. How are we doing today, folks?
I think I'm good.
Okay, we're doing.
Okay.
Yeah. I do want to take a moment before we get to acceptance to talk about, we did some, hey, I don't mean, I hope this isn't heard as hard chastising, but we have been doing a little bit of misgendering on people in comments last week, and I needed to bring it to the forefront so that we can do better. is make sure if you see somebody's name on their Zoom box and then it says afterwards what pronouns they would like to use, please make an effort to do so. And the best would be if we can do it so that I don't want to have the person who owns those pronouns to have to be the one who feels like they're the ones who have to correct. Because it's a fair move for you to be an ally and say, hey, I think you just used the wrong pronoun there. And I'm going to give you a phrase that I've talked about a long, long time ago. There was a gentleman named Jay Smooth, and he gave this example. He gave it about racism. And he says, when somebody says something racist, you can say, hey, you just said something a little bit racist. In the same way that you would say to someone, hey, you got a little bit of broccoli stuck up in your teeth. And that it's not an act of war if somebody uses the wrong pronoun. That we should be able to just say, hey, you got a little bit of broccoli in your teeth. Or hey, you might check what pronouns you were using. Okay, thank you for that. Here is my acceptance page. Hold on. I made this up. Doesn't it look like a worksheet from school? It is. It's just like that. And I made a few different pages of it for us, a few different parts of it for us to do. So here, let's start with this. Question number 1, true, false. Oh, wait a second, Ron, you have your hand up, my friend, and I don't know if you mean that to be up or what's going on.
I just wanted to say that when we bring up racism like it is the broccoli between our teeth, for a tremendous number of people, perhaps the majority in our society, they haven't learned to accept the fact that we're all racist.
Uh-huh.
It's part of our culture. And so they tend not, I would say, we want to be careful how we phrase it when we correct them.
And how would you say it differently?
I put up a wall, says, you know, the way you said that makes it feel, I feel bad when I hear you say that, Will, or something to that effect.
Uh-huh.
And talk about how it affects, I talk about how it affects me emotionally. And that gets them, jumps over the word racism.
Correct.
The effect of it.
Correct. And that, thank you, Ron. That was part of the point from Jay Smooth, is that if you say, hey, that was racist, that immediately makes somebody put up walls. But to say, hey, what you said might have been, or when you say that it hurts me, is to keep it from feeling that way. Thank you, Ron, for bringing that up. And let me bring back question number 1. Okay, now you've had more time to think about it, so I'm expecting everyone to get this one right. Oh, this is graded, this test, by the way. This is all graded. It's going in your permanent records.
I can't read it.
I'm going to read it. I'll read it to you. Okay, and I'm just kidding. This is not going in your permanent records. This is just a thought exercise. Is our ability to discern perfectly, this is a hard sentence, is our ability to discern perfectly
Inability.
Let's try that again. Is our inability to discern perfectly between what is and isn't in our control in our control? Let me say it again. Hold on. We're gonna this not a speed round. Is our inability to discern perfectly between what is and what isn't in our control in our control? So assume the assumption in that is that we have some inability to discern between what is and what isn't in our control. That sometimes we try to control things that aren't in our control, and sometimes we don't try to control things that are in our control. That's how we're built. And my question is our inability to discern the difference, is our lack of wisdom to know the difference between what we can and can't control, what we can and can't accept, is our inability to discern between what is and what isn't in our control in our control?
Potentially.
Okay?
It's not a true or false.
Oh, so we'll put a maybe.
I totally agree. That's why I said false.
So
You're in the wrong category. That's an essay question.
okay, is our inability to so let's talk about it for a moment. The serenity prayer has in the last part of it, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, which always seemed to me to imply that God has the ability to grant us the wisdom to know the difference, and therefore we don't always know the difference. We don't have the ability to always know what we can and we can't control. So I think, yeah, Gord, I think you were absolutely on the money there. It's false. Is it on our ability to control that which we can't control? No, by definition. Okay, let's try question number 2. It's not an essay question. Please provide examples with your answers for the following. Whoa, there it is. I have the ability to control what happens to me. Always, never, or sometimes. Hold on. You're going to need to provide examples. I have the ability to control what happens to me.
Sometimes.
Other.
Only how you react.
I have the ability to control what happens to me. Yes, no, or maybe.
No.
Okay.
Sometimes, yes.
So in order to get to, I tried this one out ahead of time.
Only how you react.
In order to get an answer of maybe, we have to be able to give an example of when we do and an example of when we don't. So can someone give me an example of when we have the ability to control what happens to us? Can someone give me?
We can brush our teeth to prevent cavities.
And we have the ability to control what happens to us. Somewhat. Then there's also, right, there's what teeth you inherited from your parents, and thanks mom, thanks dad. So Betsy, you gave an example of where we do have the ability to control somewhat what happens to us. We can eat candy bars before we go to bed, and we have some control over what's happening to us. And when do we not have control over what happens to us? Can you give me an example when we don't?
When we hit a patch of black ice on a curve.
We do not have the ability to control what happens to us. Thank you, Ron. Okay, so the answer, we're going to say that one's sometimes. Question?
Illness or accident.
Other people.
We cannot control them. Does what happens to me affect how I feel? And does what happens to me affect how I think?
Yes.
Yes.
Example, please. Does what happens to me control how I feel?
How you react.
Can you give me an example, please?
Well, if I stub my toe and it really, really hurts, I can go, don't hit don't kick the, I don't know, whatever it is.
Yeah. So does what happens to me affect how I feel? When I stub my toe, it affects how I feel. When I stub my toe, it affects how I think. Absolutely. Can you give me an example, a counter example? Does what happens to me not affect how I feel?
Well, there's all kinds of happenings. There's severe happenings and there's mild happenings.
And some of those will affect how, so we're going to say yes. The answer is yes, number 3. Does what happens to me affect how I think and how I feel? And I have this little drawing that we started with last week.
I think you're thinking too much.
I might be thinking too much.
Maybe.
And it's affecting us.
Perfect, there's the.
All right. Let me think one more and then think about changing courses. Does what I think affect how I feel? I'm going to say yes to that. Does how I think affect how I feel? Yes. Does how I think affect what happens to me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Does what I think affect what happens to me? I heard yes. Help me with an example. What I think affects what happens to me?
Interpretation.
Yeah, we're making our own reality, right? So
What I think affects what happens to me.
Yes. But not always.
What does this mean, what happens? This is a funny word.
I'm looking, Michael, at this image that we have feelings.
That's what your actions are, and your actions will trigger things that happen back to you.
Right. All three are related. All three influence. So let me skip the questions and just go straight to the image here. My feelings affect my actions. My feelings affect my thoughts. My thoughts affect my feelings. My thoughts affect my actions. Whatever the third one I didn't say quite yet is.
Rabbi, why is it triangular? Why is it in a circle?
Because you hadn't asked the question before, and that's how I made them. I don't know.
Look at you, just got a doctorate as a rabbi. Finish the star.
Be a square. Be a square.
Yeah.
Yeah, check. Put it outside the box.
Yeah. So let me backpedal a moment and say this. I'm just taken with how interdependent our feelings, our thoughts, and our actions are. And I can't always tell which is the one that started the thing. Sometimes I'm feeling something and I think about the feeling and I think, well, what caused that feeling?
Good.
And sometimes I see an action and I think, what did I do to make that action happen? And I bounce myself around this triangle all over the place.
Yeah.
And to bring it back to us in our discussion, what of it can I control? What of this can I control is obviously I control some of it, but I don't control all of it.
It'd be your action.
Question.
Yeah,
Answer.
yeah, go.
Right.
Yeah, John.
Question. Answer.
You have created an equilateral triangle. I wonder if the triangle needs to be scalene and changes frequently. Sometimes the distance between thoughts and actions can be very tiny. Sometimes they can be far apart.
I like that, and if I were to do it according to Ruth's circle, the lines, the words could be moved around.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this is a, yeah. Okay.
Also, it comes back to acceptance that we're finite. You know, we all have problems. That's the human condition.
And accepting the things we can't control.
Yeah.
I can't control most of it. Okay.
Well, sometimes you can.
Your actions.
Your reactions.
Yeah. Response.
No. Yeah. No. When Emmett hides and scares the pants out of me when I'm walking, right? I do not have control over my reaction.
Right.
When another child of mine,
In a Skinner block.
right? When another child of mine says something nasty, no names,
But whose initials are E?
but I am training myself to not react negatively to that. That's really hard. Yeah.
Teenagers.
I'm gonna pause here for a moment and have us move to our light and love collection of. Maria, I'm looking for your face and I don't see you.
I'm here.
There you are. Do you have a list of people?
I do. The names this week are Rita S., Harold and Connie's nephew, Mary Ellen, Mary Wolf, Christina Roth, Eloise, Kim Hasslinger, Sarah C., John, Chris H., Beverly Kennedy and Roger M., the Cook family, Lauren, Lena Rune Abbas, the Joy Center School in Kenya, Lori and Danny, Norma, R. Lyman, Linda, Phil, Cleo, Hillary, Gretchen, Bill, Karen, Sandy, Liz Feldman, Marcella, Azara, Ben, Isaac. If there is another person in our community we can offer light and love to, please put their name in the chat and I will add them to the list in the clubhouse. And for the people who aren't named but who are in our thoughts, we send them light and love as well.
Let's take a minute. Let's take a minute of time starting now. Well, thank you all very much. And I have a few announcements today. The first one we already had, which was, it's okay not to be okay. Seriously, it's okay not to be okay. We will be here for when you surface back up. Hey, I have a question. Well, first let me start with a joke that the comedian Harrison Greenbaum makes this joke during shows, and he will say to a group, he will say, "Hey, where are all the Jews in my audience?" And people shout, and then he says, "Did you all learn nothing?" It's dark, but kind of funny. So before I ask for the Jews in the group to identify themselves, I have a situation. So in Judaism, for things to become official, you need a Beit Din, which means a house of judgment. And that sounds much worse than it is. And a Beit Din just means 3 Jews got together and agreed. And if you know about Jews, that's not an easy thing to do. And so if somebody is converting into Judaism, we need to form a Beit Din. We need to have a ritual committee of at least 3 Jews to help that person to sign off and say, we might be 3 Jews, but we agree there are now 4 of us. If you would like, and folks, there's no, I don't need to see your Jew card for you to be in on this group. If you consider yourself to be Jewish, I don't know if I ever told you how I found out I was Jewish. My parents for my whole childhood told me I was Jewish, and then I realized at a certain point I had believed them. Thank you, Rita, for being the only person to laugh at my hilarious joke there. If you would like to be on a virtual Beit Din, if you have the time and inclination to help out to be on a virtual Beit Din, would you please shoot me an email or send me a message so I know I can include your name? I thank you for that. Next, a little announcement. If you would like, here's something that was done yesterday by Donald Wheeler. He sent out an email on the email that I had sent about the Saturday service, and he said, congratulations. And then he copied, you can see 18 more at the top of the email. He copied 18 people inviting them to come to this service, and I very much appreciate that happening. If you would like to invite more people to come to join in on our discussions and our never-ending quest to live a spiritual, fulfilling life, please invite your friends to do so. And then finally, donations. This works sort of the way NPR and Wikipedia work. The way that I'm able to offer so much for free is that, here's the little secret, it's not free. People make this happen. So if you have it within your wherewithal to continue to help make Religion Outside the Box happen, rotb.org/donate, and please to do that. I appreciate it. Finally, Clubhouse. It is coming. We are working on a new, we have had the Clubhouse, and that's where Maria said the names got listed. We are getting closer and closer to building a new, simpler Clubhouse. So please stand by.
I have an announcement too.
And Rita.
I just wanted to say that the next gathering for Stone Soup will be a week from today at 11 o'clock. And if you haven't made it before, that's okay. Come when you can.
And Rita and I are in the same time zone.
Oh, I forgot about that, yes.
Also, there's the Shekinah group. If you want to talk more about God, there's a Tuesday group that happens at this same Zoom link at 11 a.m. Pacific time. And there are other ways to get involved. Please reach out to each other. Also, you all have the chat. You have the ability to reach out and say, hey, I haven't seen you for a while. Lovely. Glad to see you. Glad to see that you're here. Or any kind of compliments you can send to each other. Let's do that. I have one last little story I want to tell you. Let me take a little look up and see everyone's faces for a moment. Hi, faces. Hi, people. Thank you guys for coming. So, I'm in the kitchen with my daughter, who she is getting funnier and funnier. And she said the other day, she said to Jane and I, she said, Mom, Dad, we have a problem. I don't want to name names, but certain Emmets in this house need to start flushing the toilet. The other one she said, which was quite amusing, I'm going to censor, but she said something. We were in the kitchen and she was putting away dishes because on the odd days she puts away dishes and on the even days he puts away dishes. I should change that. On the odd days she's supposed to put away dishes and on the even days he's supposed to put away the dishes. Anyway, she's putting away dishes. It's an odd day and she's listening to music and I can't remember what else she was doing, but she says to me, Dad, I'm tri-tasking right now. I said, oh? She says, yeah, I'm doing 3 things. I'm putting away the dishes, I'm listening to music, and I can't remember the third thing that she said she's doing. I said, oh, you're multitasking. She says, no, I'm doing more than multitasking. I'm tri-tasking.
That takes concentration.
So you all have the same impulse. I would guess that I had and I did not follow through on. So I'm sharing this as a humble brag moment. I did not say the next thought that was in my head, which was, well, honey, let me explain to you. Multi means more than one, whereas try only means three. And multitasking can therefore... I didn't say anything.
Good on you.
Thank you. I didn't say anything, and I realized that was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Indeed.
That
Maybe
if
it's
she lives to be 50 and is using the word try to mean more than multi, what's wrong with that? And if someone else wants to correct her, let that be on their dime. But I have no need to... I got enough problems. I don't need to be the one who's correcting her linguistically all the time.
Well, I think she's right. I think confining your what you're doing to three things and excluding everything else is like making your mind go blank, like the Zen kind of thing. It takes real concentration.
Okay, I think you are horribly biased towards Annie.
How old is Annie now?
She is 14. Which, and if you haven't seen her at a Saturday service, and there's a reason for that. There's a joke rabbis tell, which is the reason we do a bar and bat mitzvah at 13, we'd never be able to get a 14-year-old to do it. So I want to go back and I want to give you a little moment of homework, of something to do. I did not correct my daughter in that moment. And I'm wondering if you can do the same in the next week. Not about my daughter. I'm sure it's going to be easy for you not to correct my daughter. But if somebody says something and they mean to say the one thing and they know what they meant to, but can you try this week to not correct someone out of principle?
Let it go.
Yeah, let's just see what happens. Meg, you said something, but you're muted.
I said I do that every day.
Of not saying something.
Yeah, my husband has some mild dementia, and whatever he says, as long as it's not harmful.
Yeah.
We go.
That's good.
Amen.
Amen.
And that's very hard.
It is really hard.
It is very hard.
And very loving.
And really loving. So can we all take a little vow this week to try to be a little more loving and a little less correcting and let a few things just slide when necessary?
Yes. Thank you.
Folks, I am delighted that you spend this time with me. I'm going to turn off the recording, but first wave goodbye to all the people who are there. Thank you all for showing up and for being yourselves and for adding a little more love to this world.